Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more details videos. WTA Rankings Update. Aryna Sabalenka continues to lead unchanged top 10. Naomi Osaka. Alexandra Eala slip amid U.S. Open Series. As the summer sun scorches the American hard courts, the world of women's tennis simmers with anticipation. The WTA rankings have arrived with a quiet roar. Aryna Sabalenka stands immovable at the summit. The top 10 remains unchanged, yet ripples of change pulse beneath the surface. Outside the elite, names once feared and rising stars once favored now find themselves navigating treacherous tides. Among them, Naomi Osaka and Alexandra Eala, both slipping slightly as the U.S. Open Series reshapes careers and expectations. The Queen still rules. Sabalenka's reign continues. Aryna Sabalenka, a player forged in fire and ambition, retains her #1 ranking like a warrior guarding her fortress. The Belarusian powerhouse has fought through grit and grace in 2025, her thunderous ground strokes and fierce resolve keeping her above a pack of equally hungry contenders. While her game this year has not always been flawless, she bowed out early in Rome and fell in a marathon match in Montreal. Her consistency and powerful results in the first half of the season, including her runner-up finish at the Australian Open and her triumphant conquest of Madrid, have cemented her place at the top. Unlike the turbulence of previous years, the WTA Top 10 has held steady this month. Iga Swiatek, the thoughtful tactician from Poland, remains a shadow just behind Sabalenka, while Aryna Rybakina and Coco Gauff breathe down their necks. Each has their own agenda. Each is waiting for the Queen to falter. But Sabalenka isn't ready to give them the crown just yet. Naomi Osaka. The return meets resistance. For Naomi Osaka, 2025 was meant to be the Renaissance. After taking a hiatus for motherhood, the four-time Grand Slam champion returned to the courts with hope, poise, and a fierce backhand. She showed glimpses of her old brilliance in Indian Wells and even more promise in Miami, reaching the fourth round. But as the U.S. Open Series begins, the wear of competition is evident. A second-round exit in Washington and a disappointing early stumble in Cincinnati have cost her valuable ranking points. Slipping out of the top 50 may seem like a numerical drop, but for Osaka, every step backward is a mental battle she must face with the quiet strength that once made her invincible on the biggest stages. Still, her presence brings electricity to every draw. The crowds flock to see her. The cameras follow. And deep inside, Naomi knows that her time isn't over. The storm of her comeback may just need one lightning strike at Flushing Meadows to awaken the champion within. Alexandra Eala, a star in waiting, but for how long? Just a year ago, Alexandra Eala's name was whispered in excited tones across tennis circles. The young Filipina had charmed the tour with her mix of grace and aggression, her lefty strokes carving unique angles that puzzled even seasoned pros. But youth, as often in tennis, is both blessing and burden. Eala's 2025 campaign has been rocky. While she broke into the top 100 with promise early in the year, the transition from ITF dominance to WTA main draws has exposed gaps in her game. Losses in the first rounds of Toronto and San Jose, followed by a qualifying round exit in Cincinnati, have left her rankings in limbo, now tumbling just outside the top 100 again. Yet, there's no panic in her camp. Eala remains just 20 years old, with time on her side and a game that continues to mature. Her forehand, once erratic under pressure, is gaining shape. Her serve is improving, and the mental resilience she's known for, nurtured in long, hot Philippine training sessions and honed in Spanish academies, may be her greatest weapon in the years to come. The unchanged top 10, calm before the chaos? As Sabalenka sits atop the rankings throne, the rest of the top 10 reads like a who's who of modern tennis brilliance. Iga Swiatek, Aryna Rybakina, Coco Gauff, Jessica Pegula, Ons Jabeur, Marketa Vondrousova, Maria Sakkari, Qin Wenjung, and Karolina Muchova. Each has a story, a style, and a secret ambition. Swiatek, precise and methodical, seeks to reclaim the #1 she once wore like a second skin. Gauff, the American darling and reigning U.S. Open champion, has pressure from fans but momentum in her favor. Pegula, steady as ever, has her eyes on converting deep runs into titles. Jabeur, the magician from Tunisia, is chasing that elusive Grand Slam glory. And then there's Rybakina, who has quietly become one of the most feared players on the tour. Her icy demeanor hides a smoldering will to dominate, and on hard courts, her serve is a lethal weapon. This top 10, unchanged for now, feels like a calm before a storm. The U.S. Open looms, and history tells us that under New York's bright lights, rankings can crumble and dynasties can begin. The undercurrents, players on the verge, beyond the headlines, just outside the top 10, danger brews. Daria Kasatkina, ever the crafty strategist, continues to linger near the top tier, waiting for an opening. Emma Raducanu, trying to rebuild her ranking post-injury, has made quiet progress and could make a dramatic return. Mira Andreeva, still a teenager, plays like a veteran and threatens to leapfrog into contention with a single deep slam run. The field is wide. The margins are razor-thin. In today's WTA, a quarterfinal can launch a career. A first-round loss can cost a season. And the drama of rankings, though quiet on the surface this month, is simmering with potential eruptions. Looking ahead, the U.S. Open Series and beyond. With the U.S. Open less than a month away, the hardcourt swing is set to define careers. Cincinnati, Cleveland, and the final warm-ups offer precious points and critical match rhythm. Players like Osaka and Eala, despite recent slides, know that the Open is where stars rise, and redemption is always one brave swing away. For Sabalenka, the challenge is different. She must defend her points, her crown, and her legacy. The WTA throne is rarely held for long, and the chase behind her is fast and ruthless. The rankings may be a scoreboard, but in tennis, they are also prophecy, sometimes broken, sometimes fulfilled. And as the 2025 season barrels toward its climax, one truth remains. The numbers may stand still, but the stories never do. The summer sun shimmered over the courts of North America, where the hard-court season was in full swing. The U.S. Open Series, a crucial prelude to the final Grand Slam of the year, had become a battleground for momentum, pride, and precious ranking points. But as the dust settled after another week of gripping tennis, the new WTA rankings painted a fascinating, albeit predictable, picture at the top, with whispers of change beginning to echo from the lower rungs. Aryna Sabalenka, the queen who would not budge. At world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka stood like a lighthouse amid a turbulent sea. Her place atop the rankings remained unchallenged, her form undeterred, while her path had not been without tremors, occasional early exits, tactical critiques, and emotional scrutiny. Sabalenka's fierce baseline play and raw intensity continued to be her arsenal. Her recent performances in the early U.S. Open Series events weren't flawless, but consistent enough to maintain her ranking fortress. Analysts marveled at how she had adapted. Her once volatile temperament had matured. Her powerful forehand now carried more calculation than chaos. Sabalenka, the storm of old, had become a steady force, imposing and unshakable. "She's playing smarter, not just harder," said Martina Navratilova. And when you're at the top, consistency is the greatest weapon of all. Sabalenka's continued reign left Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, and Elena Rybakina still chasing, talented shadows in her wake, awaiting an opening, a misstep. But the top 10, frozen in place, locked in a power equilibrium that refused to shift for now. The unchanged top 10, calm before the storm. It was rare for the WTA's top 10 to stay entirely unchanged. But this week, the tennis gods seemed to press pause. The rankings showed no movement among the elites. Aryna Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, Elena Rybakina, Jessica Pegula, Marketa Vondrousova, Ons Jabeur, Maria Sakkari, Qin Wenjung, Danielle Collins. Each of these athletes was battling their own narratives. Swiatek, the once untouchable Pole, was fine-tuning her hardcourt game. Gauff, fresh off her meteoric rise, with a U.S. Open title under her belt last year, was the darling of American tennis. Vondrousova and Pegula were holding steady, dependable but yearning for breakout moments. Danielle Collins, who announced her retirement tour, seemed to be playing with nothing to lose, and was quietly winning. Yet while the top 10 seemed still, like a painting, there was movement, vivid and unpredictable, just below the surface. Naomi Osaka, a star searching for her galaxy. Naomi Osaka was never just a tennis player. She was a cultural icon, a mental health advocate, a symbol of resilience and grace. But rankings were merciless, and as she continued her comeback after maternity leave, the system showed no sympathy for legacy. Having made her return to the court earlier this year, Osaka had displayed flashes of brilliance. Her ground strokes still exploded off the racket. Her composure was even more refined, and her interviews spoke of gratitude rather than pressure. Yet results mattered. A second-round loss in Washington and a tough draw in Montreal meant her climb back up was hindered. This week, she slipped a few more spots, an expected stumble in a long and winding comeback trail. Still, no one was counting her out. The tennis world had seen what a focused, fit, and fearless Osaka could do. And if her trajectory continued, the U.S. Open could very well be the stage for her renaissance. "She's like a comet," said Chris Evert. "You don't see it all the time, but when it comes, you can't take your eyes off it." Alexandra Eala, a dream deferred, not denied. For Alexandra Eala, the prodigious Filipina teenager once hailed as the future of Southeast Asian tennis, the rankings update came with a gentle sting. After making waves with junior Grand Slam titles and a celebrated transition to the Pro Tour, the U.S. Open Series so far had been unforgiving. Eala had taken the gamble of entering bigger tournaments for more points, hoping for breakthrough performances. But the competition was brutal. First-round exits in Atlanta and San Jose meant she couldn't defend or improve her standing. This week, she slid a few spots down the ladder, just outside the top 200. Still, her story was one of progress, not panic. At just 19, Eala was learning. Her court craft was evolving, her movement more refined, her serve stronger. What she lacked in wins, she made up for in experience. And the WTA knew. A young player who could absorb losses with maturity often turned into a champion. "She reminds me of a young Simona Halep," said Pam Shriver. "Tenacious, driven, fearless. Just needs her moment." For Eala, the journey was just beginning. Emerging threats and hidden climbers. While stars like Osaka and Eala experienced dips, other players used the U.S. Open Series to ascend. Emma Navarro, the American rising star, cracked the top 40 for the first time, making deep runs in Washington and Toronto. Her all-court game and relentless attitude drew praise and comparisons to Pegula. Meanwhile, Diana Schneider, the fiery lefty from Russia, climbed into the top 50 with a semifinal appearance in Montreal, upsetting seeded players along the way. And then there was Linda Noskova, the Czech teenager whose powerful ground game was drawing whispers of next big thing. With every hard-court event, she seemed to grow bolder and closer to a breakthrough. The WTA was a garden of blooming threats, and the seeds of change had clearly been sown. U.S. Open awaits, the rankings' ultimate test. With New York looming, the real battle was just beginning. The U.S. Open, the fourth and final Grand Slam, had a gravitational pull unlike any other. Players knew that performances there could redefine careers, alter narratives, and shake the very foundation of the rankings. Sabalenka would seek to solidify her reign. Swiatek would aim to reclaim dominance. Gauff would fight to defend her crown on home soil, and Rybakina would seek revenge for close losses that haunted her season. But lurking in the draw would be Naomi Osaka, beloved by Flushing Meadows, and young stars like Navarro, Eala, and Noskova, ready to shock the world. The WTA Rankings update may have shown stillness at the top, but it was the stillness before a storm. A storm of ambition, unpredictability, and generational change. The emotional pulse beneath numbers. Rankings were cold. They didn't show heart. They didn't reflect sleepless nights, bruised knees, mental fatigue, or the joy of a well-won point. But they did represent something deeper, a map of where the game stood and where it was headed. This week's update said Sabalenka still reigned, that the top 10 were untouchable, that Osaka and Eala stumbled, that others rose quietly. But what it really told us was that the sport was alive with tension and promise. Because tennis, like life, doesn't move in straight lines. It ebbs. It flows. And just when you think it's all the same, something unexpected happens.